Well, it's great to be back, everybody. In the time I was gone, so much has changed, but also so much has stayed the same. We're going to talk about it. The bonus show today will be explosively packed with stories from my vacation and my trip. And I know many of you followed what I was up to on social media, but I have a number of different observations, met some great David Pakman Show viewers while I was in Europe just by chance, and a lot to talk about as far as my trip goes. We'll do that on the bonus show. Let's get right into, listen, when I was gone, Donald Trump indicted a fourth time, will be turning himself in, reportedly will be mugshotted, weighed, and will have his height taken. Height, some would say. We'll talk about that later as well. We are now just 2 days away from the first Republican presidential primary debate. We have outrageous weather events that seem to be breaking the brains of many of the MAGA types. There's just so much to discuss. But one of the things that has not changed in the time I was gone and since we last spoke is that the Republican primary is still overwhelmingly dominated by the quad indicted failed former president, Donald J. Trump. And there is one campaign, that of the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, that is truly on life support. So I want to start there just to contextualize what is going on. President Joe Biden, to the extent that he is able, is trying to get things done. Do we love every single thing that Biden does? No, I don't know that we do with any president. But is he governing? Absolutely. And in the meantime, the Republican Party is in a situation where they seem inevitably poised to select once again as their presidential candidate, Donald Trump, an individual who, can he win a general election? It's not clear. We're going to talk about that. Where does the polling stand today? As you see here up on the screen, the purple line at the top of the chart is Donald Trump. And indeed, in the last month, Trump continuing to grow his support from about 51% of the Republican electorate, now all the way up to nearly 56% of the Republican electorate. In the last month, Trump has gained about 10% support. Meanwhile, the Ron DeSantis campaign has lost more than half of its support. Donors are heading for the exits. Some are even casually shifting from DeSantis to Ramaswamy, in some cases Pence, some of them to Chris Christie, who has now reached the high point of his 2024 run, 3. Yes, Christie is at 3, which is the highest he has ever been. But as you can see here, the green line down the middle of the graph, DeSantis at one point reaching more than 31% support among Republican voters, now all the way down to below 15%. If you have lost half of your support, does it suggest you're on a winning trajectory? I believe the answer is clearly no. And then let's address the Vivek Ramaswamy surge. Yes, Vivek Ramaswamy starting at 1% when he entered the race. He is now at 7%. Without a doubt, Ramaswamy has seen the largest surge of any candidate, going from 1% to 7%. That is a 600% gain. His argument, this is not my argument, Vivek's argument is that he is the one who has gained the most support. That part is true. And that he is on the same trajectory as Trump was in August of 2015. I believe that that may be a bit of an overstatement in the sense that Trump in 2015 was not a former president of the United States. And so while you can make the case that mathematically Ramaswamy today and Trump in August of 2015 were in similar mathematical positions, Ramaswamy does not have the benefit of what we might call former incumbency, the bully pulpit, call it what you will, that Trump does today. And thus, it is not obvious to me that Vivek Ramaswamy is poised to take over this lead. A couple of other important things to mention. Chris Christie in New Hampshire in some polling has now gone into second place. The argument all along for Christie was if he can get some early strong showing, some delegates, or maybe even winning an early state, it would then be a signal to the Republican voter that Christie is viable. You can abandon Trump. You can go with the one guy who is telling some approximation of the truth. And indeed, DeSantis in some polls has dropped to third place in New Hampshire, Christie in second, Trump still in first. Is that going to be enough to get Christie from where he is now, 3.1, to wherever? Hard to say. I mean, listen, Nikki Haley's campaign has been dead from the beginning, and she's still ahead of Chris Christie. So I think we have to take a sort of wait and see attitude when it comes to Christie. I also am open to the idea that Wednesday's debate, which, by the way, at minimum, I will be live streaming a pre-debate show, depending on how litigious Fox News plans to be. We're waiting for advice from our YouTube rep. I will try to stream the entire debate on YouTube. If I'm not streaming, it's because we're not allowed. We'll just get shut down. But at minimum, I hope you'll join me at 8 p.m. Eastern time Wednesday for a pre-debate show. And then maybe we'll stream the debate, maybe we won't. I'm open to the idea that in Trump's absence on Wednesday, and yes, Donald Trump has now said he will not be at Wednesday's debate. I'm open to the idea that without Trump there, someone could really impress the Republican electorate. Could it be Chris Christie? Maybe. Could it be Mike Pence? Probably not. There's nothing impressive about Mike Pence. Could it be Vivek Ramaswamy? Maybe. I think he is poised for a very strong performance on Wednesday. The question is, if Trump doesn't participate, will the very people that these other candidates need to convince, namely Trump supporters, even be watching? Because the plan is that Donald Trump will actually be participating in a competing interview, I believe it is, on Wednesday. So I just don't know that without Trump there, there's really the opportunity for a candidate to take any support from Trump. I mean, listen, maybe Vivek can take some support from Pence if he does really well on Wednesday, but will either have the opportunity to take support from Trump? I just don't see it. So I still believe Trump has a relatively unobstructed path to this nomination. That's where I was 2 weeks ago when we last spoke, and it's where I am today. And we will follow all of it. So much has changed, but so much has stayed the same. Trump still in a commanding lead in the Republican primary. Let's talk about a couple other things. Then we will get back to some of the campaign-related events of the weekend. Travel has really been resuming for both work and pleasure over the recent months. The last thing you want on your trip is to get sick, locking you in your hotel room, or maybe even worse, the hospital. But you do have to be prepared. The doctors at Mayo Clinic have developed an iPhone app that helps users safeguard their health during travel. It's called My Travel Health, one of our sponsors today. My Travel Health provides tips for preventing and handling illness while you travel. It also lets users receive security alerts from the U.S. State Department about the specific country that you're in. It provides country-specific vaccine recommendations from the CDC. It locally stores critical information like passports and visa records, immunization records, allergy alerts. I've used the app. It's awesome. Hugely helpful when I'm either on vacation or traveling for work. You just have to plan for the worst, whether it's a respiratory infection or a blood clot or heat exhaustion. My Travel Health will just walk you through how to address it while traveling. Download the app for iPhone at davidpakman.com/travel. The link is down below.